Question was, we've got this big innovation in the car industry of self-driving cars, where we see it a bit as a good and bad of AI, right? It's a bit frightening. It appeals to what you've said about, keeping control, but as well, it should not do whatever it wants. So is generative AI going to help achieving a good self-driving car, or do you think generative AI will not be leveraged there? And do you think Nissan, or do you know if Nissan is investigating the opportunity of having generative AI to help in the path of producing completely autonomous cars?
Right, that's a very good question, and Nissan is a very big company, and that's not an element of the company. It's not a part of the company that, unfortunately, I'm facing day to day. So I cannot give that direct or straight answer to it, really, from a company part perspective or even an insight. On my personal note, would it help? There's a lot of things probably to be done, especially on a driving space, because especially if we speak about the self-driving cars, the safety should be coming first. And this is the question, are we facing a technology which is already mature enough, and are we able to put it properly in place? But again, it's just my personal opinion in here.
So I think there is a question to you, Maciej. You've made that statement that synthetic data was a great opportunity with generative AI, but the problem of with synthetic data is it doesn't translate the unexpected or reality of the situation, and it just reproduces something that we already have in the data. So it doesn't give anything new already or anything from the ground. So there is a bit of a false promise here from generative AI that you're going to generate data that you don't have, but actually you don't generate data. You just make up data that you already have, but you don't know you have it because you just extend from what you have already, if that makes sense. Yes. And so then the question is then back to me, that I've made that statement at the beginning, that one of the big trends of generative AI was we can produce new data that we don't have and that is not easily accessible. So can you please tell us a bit more about that? Because you said you would show a demo on that and you haven't shown it.
Where to start? Maybe from the end. Federated analytics definitely is something which is extremely valuable, especially in the customer data space, because of all of the different privacy laws which are requiring you to go to the data and work with the data in federated way. That's for sure. And I think this is something which will definitely bring your analysis closer to the original data that you will have, and that will be a trade of it. On the usage of the synthetic data, where I'm seeing this, I'm not talking about creating art or pictures and creating deepfakes in here, because that can go down that rabbit line when we are speaking about creation of synthetic data. I'm more speaking about augmenting of certain situations where you need to find exactly the right balance, where you speak about the real situation and where the synthetic data should help you, either with the privacy aspects or when you really do not have the right amount of the sample to build your models, to build your experiments. Simple saying, in the privacy areas, in the customer data areas, synthetic data can work amazing job around even masking your data sets and providing a data which looks like the real data sets, but you can start avoiding the personal identifiable elements of it. So these are that kind of elements that I would be referring in here, not to start creating fake stories in reality. Again, there will be situations where synthetic data will not help, but there are situations where synthetic data will be one of the solutions. Is it the best solution? That's to be assessed.
Yeah, so there was a part to me on, what kind of data do you generate? So actually, it's one of the statements, when we go often, with different clients, the first thing that they say is like, we have so much data, we don't do much with it. But when you go into the reality of, then the use case or what they are trying to do, you actually realize that there's not so much data that is the data that you need for your use case. So when you come to use case, like, okay, I would like to have data, but where do I get the data from? So actually you have a bit this paradox here in most of organizations. And so what I wanted to say with saying you can generate new data is, I think it probably goes in the sense of the federated elements that you've said, but maybe not the analytics element. What I wanted to say by that is there's a lot of things that actually is data that is lost. And I was thinking, and the demo I wanted to show was coming from a logistic company that has to deliver a number of parcels. And one of the problems in life is when they go, let's say, University of Cambridge. So they're gonna go and they have to deliver something. University of Cambridge is like huge. Where should they go? What should they deliver? Who is the guy they need to leave the parcel with? Or, like, what do they do? So, and that there is no data to say that, right? So, but the experience of the driver, having it done once, having it done twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, actually the data exists, you just never captured. So the idea is to say that, how to incentivize people to give that data back to the system. And because generative AI is here to help guide the driver through the journey next time, the idea is to say, actually, I'm going to ask the driver to just tell on the phone, or when he's doing his delivery at the end, he's taking his truck back to the next point, he's going to just leave a voicemail, say, okay, I've been to the University of Cambridge, you need to take this third door on the left, on this street, I parked here, and I've been able to deliver the parcel to this guy who is usually waiting behind the desk after the second door on the right. So the idea is that data, how do you do to really put it in the database, right? So what generative AI is great at is taking that very long sentence, trying to make sense of it, putting in a database, and then for the driver next time when he goes again, he can say, okay, I need to deliver to the University of Cambridge that parcel. Where, how? Where should I park the car? Who should I deliver it to? And you see, so that's what I meant. So I didn't mean like we're going to generate data out of the blue, but we have now ways to, incentivize people because they're going to create that help very easily, to the point that we're saying that actually everyone can use the generative AI. It's AI for everyone. And at the same time, they're going to give that data in the way they want to give data. And not in that way that we know you need to go into the form, you need to put your name, your first name, your last name. All the data is great, right? We hear about customer 360, understanding everyone's life. This is very useful data. It has no name, it has no ID, it has nothing. It just helps from people the way they talk and the way they express themselves. So that was the example I wanted to give on the screen as a demo. I was a bit pressed by time, and thank you for the occasion to, share with everyone.
I actually would love to add to this because it's resonate on my experience that I think companies are falling often into the traps of using either too much of first-party data or too much third-party data from advertising. There's, I think, somewhere there's a sweet spot in between when you can use both of them, and there's also a lot of possibility around the publicly available third-party data, which are not usually but not often utilized, which are another repository which can really power some of the insights.
And then, it's true that, maybe one comment that I can make, which is a broad comment, which is we've got the world of heavy content, right? And then, a lot of data was probably never been the content itself. It was database and system, very structured numbers, like data has been produced in numbers. So financial data was probably the most, the biggest database on earth. And now it's a little bit probably generative AI. I don't know if you would agree to the statement. I don't know what you guys think about it. It's probably the revenge of content. Where actually content now, with digital, has already produced a lot more data than maybe the numbers have produced in terms of at least of size and weight. And generative AI is now the occasion to make sense of that big data that was sitting here, but it was very hard to make sense of. So it's a bit of the revenge of, I don't need your phone number, I don't need your ID, I don't need your age, I don't need, we're going to talk about content and ideas. So it's true that it's kind of like interesting to see this move. We're going to give more importance to that instead of knowing people kind of like by name and ID.
It could be even go as a loop in the creation of the content when you'll be using generative AI to create more and more content, and then you will be using generative AI to summarize that content because there's too much content.
The question is, automotive is a very changing landscape. We know obviously the big trend of EV. I'm backing it up, on top of your question, but that changes a lot. Paradigm of how we sell car, how we use car, how we approach mobility, and so matching the demand, understanding how the demand is evolving, is a big thing in the car industry, especially when the cycles of innovations are so long. And so how you believe generative AI is helping closing that gap between this demand that is changing so fast, but we have factories and car consumption that is not moving as fast as demand. How is Gen AI able to help us, going and matching the demand and trying to go as fast as the demand wants us to go?
That will be probably not answering the question in the context of Nissan, but it's more where I would think where it should be going. I believe there's a very big opportunity in the industry how generative AI can help, especially in the customer experience space, to do things faster and more accurate. How you can get and, for example, in a customer journey, bring customers from point A to B faster, more accurate. How you can better understand that demand instead of maybe talking with somebody through the phone or speaking with somebody personally, how we can use Gen AI to anticipate maybe those journeys. That's definitely an area worth exploring.
Can I interject in a
Yes.
second? So what kind of journey, for example, would be impacted by Gen AI?
As an example, if you will be a customer on the web, how you would like to find certain elements or certain information. There's a power, and I think power in that, and we've seen this on some of the examples, how you can better way search certain information, how you can find certain information better. So that's definitely where I would suggest to go. Where else Gen AI could help in here?
If we think about the car, because I think I see where you are coming from a little bit. You try to bring Gen AI to the driver experience almost.
Idea.
Right?
One thing which I'm trying in my answer to stay away in here, I'm thinking that all of the areas of self-driving, putting the Gen AI into it, and that kind of experience are very sensitive. That's my personal view. It's almost like you will be giving your life in hands of the algorithm, and this needs to be really something that you can trust. And there's a lot of things to do around the technology. That's why it could be helping in more consumer areas, better understanding customers, better helping with the journey, the social listening areas, working, that's a good example, working with all of different types of text, how to get the customer from point A to point B, either it would be a search or looking through the manual, how better find that information, what to find. These are the things which could definitely benefit. And sounds maybe like a small steps, not leaps, but I think that's a good start.
And do you think, because I would like to elaborate on what Maxence was asking, and also one of your slides, Shell, where you are saying generative AI can do summarizing, can do this, can do that. The different functions here.
Well, the key thing was the customer listener aspect of it. And I think going back to your earlier point when you were talking about content, one of the key things that generative AI is doing is that it is really making available and useful the world of unstructured data, and which is great because we live in a world of unstructured data. We're surrounded by it. It's the language we communicate. It is the visual world that we're around here. Until really these, between convolutional neural networks and generative AI, really this world of unstructured data is now useful for us for the first time, both because we can actively structure this unstructured data and turn it into usable things, but also because we can now participate in that unstructured world with technology. We can generate language, we can generate voice, we can generate video and images, etc. So we're really moved, courtesy of, to a large extent, generative AI, to a certain extent, some of the deep learning technologies before it, from a world where really all technological interaction has been mostly through structured data, to one in which now the unstructured world is useful. So omni-channel customer analytics, not just social, but any review websites, emails, chat, all of those things, when we tried to analyze it previously, it was extraordinarily difficult manual work. Now it's still not it's not easy, but it's massively easier to scale in a way that previously most of that data was just ignored, or if there were certain like really valuable things that we knew were in there, maybe we were willing to put in the effort. But now it's brought that cost of effort into using that data that either we already have or that it's out there and we've never tapped into. Now all of a sudden we have that opportunity to go in and use it. It's an incredible opportunity.
But is or not, what I wanted to get as well is to say that there's maybe one function, like you had like listing those, I don't remember, six or seven. Five great areas, where generative AI can do stuff. And there's maybe a sixth one, which, Maxence, you're trying to get, which I'm not sure, was there, which is, getting something, that was not exactly the data. Because when we talk about trends, it's like, we see things that are happening now, but we need to know then what's going to happen next, what's going to grow next, what will be the next big thing, like what is maybe small today that's going to become big. And probably generative AI is still in that phase where it can just say what is there, right? Something small is small, something big is big. But it cannot say what's going to be big that is small today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have my own view on that, which is the connection of generative AI with action, with engines of different types. So obviously, folks are really excited about autonomous agents, so AutoGPT and Baby AGI. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think those are shooting for the moon. We're not going to go in that direction. But the combination of generative AI with the ability to take action based off of either the recommendations or through the human interaction with the models, I think that's where it's going, and that's what's going to enable us to have this blossoming ecosystem of generative AI-based applications. Because if the generative AI application was just an analysis of the data or the creation of voice or images or things, it wouldn't be that transformative. When you take those and then have the ability now that the model can interact with your CRM system, the model can interact with your ERP system, the model can interact with certainly all of the data that's available on the internet. The model can now work with all of our different real-world systems. Now all of a sudden you can affect change in an incredibly powerful way.
And that's right. The model itself can't work in a vacuum. Somebody needs to be consumer of it. And that's where the activation will come. And is it going to be exactly CRM? Is it going to be a web? That's where the value will be coming.